There's one thing you've learned over the years: you ain't no kind of man if you ain't got land. Luckily, there's plenty to be had if you're willing to pay the price. This is your chance to be a big shot. Big Shot is an auction game in which players compete for control of valuable plots of land in the city. The game is set up by placing 4 cubes randomly in each of the 18 spaces around the board. Each player receives 10 money and a card to indicate their color. At the start of your turn, roll the die and move the broker pawn that number of spaces around the board. The cubes at the spot where the broker lands will be auctioned off. Players bid around the table until everyone but one player passes. Once per auction, players may take out a loan to help raise capital. However, interest is involved, which means that the first loan gives you 9 money, the next 8 money, then 7, and so on. The winner of the auction then takes the 4 cubes and places each of them in any of the available plots in the city. The cubes can be split however the winner likes. They could, for example, place all of them into a single plot, or place 2 in this area, and the remaining cubes in 2 different plots. As soon as a plot has 7 cubes in it, the game pauses to resolve ownership. The player who has the most cubes in a plot will claim it using this soul token and remove the other cubes from the game. There is, however, one major twist. If any players are tied for control, their cubes cancel each other out and the majority goes to the next in line. In this example, brown and red are both tied with 3 cubes and cancel each other out, allowing yellow to take the space with a single cube. Play continues until all 18 groups of cubes are auctioned off. Your score is equal to your remaining cash, plus the value of every plot that you control, then subtract 10 for every loan that you took out, and the player with the highest score is the winner. Before getting into my thoughts on the game, I'd like to take a moment to commend Publisher Plate for the production of this game. The art is lovely and the pieces are pleasing, but it's the size of the box that stands out. Everything fits into a box that is about the fourth of a volume of a typical board game without sacrificing usability. The game is modest in scope, but it's refreshing to see a small box in an age where games are pushing cubic feet instead of inches. But a nice production doesn't mean much if the game isn't worth playing, and I'm happy to say that Big Shot is a big win. For a game with so few rules, it's admirable how much there is to consider in each of the 18 auctions. Even when your color isn't included in the auction, you still have a vested interest in the results. If you're battling with an opponent over a valuable piece of land, it might be worthwhile to win an auction with their pieces to make sure that they don't take control. This type of consideration is further enhanced by the brilliant tiebreaker rule. Having cubes cancel each other out in ties allows you to swoop in and grab plots on the cheap while wasting your opponent's cubes in the process. It's a sharp tool that reminds you that Big Shot is a highly confrontational game, and cutting down your opponents can be just as advantageous as focusing on your own cubes. Without this rule, Big Shot would be a shadow of a game, and is a reminder that clever design can be found in games outside of the past decade. It also carries the ethos of the old classics. Simplicity is at the forefront and player agency is the star. The game acquiesces to the will of the players. Want to go into deep debt and control the auctions? Go right ahead. It might be a successful strategy, or it might be the results of your opponents driving up the costs just to watch you drown in debt. Do you spread out and try and sneak into as many spots as you can, or do you focus on the high-value targets? Perhaps the doubling lots are more your style. Control these plots of land and all of your adjacent plots are now worth double. The rules-light design means that each of these strategies can be viable, but only in response to your opponents. It's a type of game that highlights player decisions and makes you invested in every outcome. Perhaps my favorite element of Big Shot is the arc that the players go through. In the beginning, valuation is hazy. You're never quite sure what anything is worth. With a wide open landscape, anything can be valuable at the right price. And then the board starts settling and cubes start dispersing. You can see where players are staking their claims and figure out where you might want to attack. And the final rounds end in a crescendo of tension. With fewer plots to contend with, everyone is focused on the fallout of the remaining auctions, and one false move can end your hopes of winning. For some players, I can imagine the roll of the die to be a frustration point. Having limited foresight on upcoming auctions can really undercut your long-term planning. I, on the other hand, am not a long-term planner. I enjoy focusing on the immediate task at hand and dealing with the aftermath in upcoming turns. So the random auction timing didn't bother me, and it does a good job of dissuading players from stalling the game while they analyze every future auction. Big Shot is sharp, quick, and full of wonderful moments. It's a type of game that reminds you that simplicity doesn't mean a lack of substance. It's perhaps too confrontational for universal appeal, but if anything, that's a selling point for me. I don't know why I hadn't played Big Shot these past 20 years, but I expect I'll be playing it plenty over the next 20.